Hey guys, and just before today's podcast starts, I thought I'd let you know about a little bit of a podcasting project that I'm involved in called MotoCast. So basically it's a place where me and a few other F1 YouTubers, motorsport YouTubers, are just going to be making some podcasts over the course of this year. I'm involved in the F1 ones, so yeah, similar to the ones that you're going to be seeing today and you saw just before Christmas. So I'll leave a link down to that down in the description. Make sure you go and check it out. There's already some up there. But yeah, without further ado, enjoy today's podcast. What's up, guys, and welcome to another podcast. It's been a little bit of time since the last one, but obviously we're in the F1 off-season at the moment, so not really too much to discuss, but you guys seem to really enjoy the last one, so make sure to drop a like on this one and let us know down below on what you think of our thoughts. But today I am joined by Matt, or StopMatt1998. He joined us on the last one. I'll mention the discussion points that we're going to go through, but yeah, good to have you, Matt.
Yep, amazing to be here once again. Fortunately, the consistency hasn't been that great so far. I think a month since the last podcast, so top job so far. But yeah, pleasure to be here just to discuss some real life F1 topics. Not much has been going on recently, but a few talking points, and also a bit about the F1 community as well, and maybe delving into the game a little bit, linking into that community topic.
Yeah, we're just going to, like Matt said, start off just talking about what's been going on in the real-life F1 world, which is probably what this podcast will mainly revolve around. But yeah, like Matt said, not too much been going on. So we'll discuss the whole Manor thing. I did sort of, I guess I touched on it in my last video, where the back marker challenge that I did, but I actually recorded it before Manor had actually gone bust, so it was a little, it was a little bit awkward, video, but fortunately I incorporated it into a nice clickbait title for people. So you know, it was good to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. So yeah, I may be able to draw a bit on that as well. And yeah, obviously we'll go on to discuss the community as well. Hopefully not getting too controversial, but
no, we will try our best. I mean, just before we get into it, we're not even trying to slag off anyone, no individual, no YouTuber. It's just like a general thing, really.
Yeah. I mean, we've discussed before, like when we contemplated doing this podcast, and we said that we wanted to just sort of like maybe touch on the way that the community's going. So yeah, like you said, not going to slag anyone off, but yeah, I think we'll just get into the first discussion point before we land ourselves in too much trouble, which is Manor. So of course, the Manor F1 team went into administration. I believe it was on Friday. It was either Friday or Saturday last week. So yeah, I think they're going to be missed on the grid, just sort of, I guess, as a team there who don't have too much money put into them. They've sort of, I guess, worked their way up from the bottom. And last season, they really looked as if they were sort of creeping up on the midfield. And with the big regulation change this year, I think they probably could have mixed it in there. I don't know. I'll throw it out there, Matt. What are your thoughts on not having Manor on the grid? Are you going to miss them, or you know, just what are your general thoughts?
Of course, I'll miss Manor. I mean, it's a real shame. As you said, they were really making some strides forward. There were a lot of promising signs last season. I think Wehrlein managed to get into Q2 around 5 times. Yeah. Obviously scored that point in Austria. And as I said, the team did look like it could have, you know, had great potential for the future. But unfortunately, F1, it's an expensive old sport. And Felipe Nasr's points in Brazil pretty much sealed their fate. They needed, I think, what was it, 10th at the start of the season, or was it 9th? No, it was 10th, wasn't it? It was 10th. It was 10th. Sorry. I'm trying to work out how many teams we have in F1. I don't even know that. That just shows how unprofessional this is. But yeah, Manor, of course, it's going to be a shame without them, because now we only have 20 cars on the grid, and there's enough for 24, maybe even 26 cars. And without Manor, without that sort of, you know, fighting spirit at the back, it's going to be a real shame. And I think Manor had also been working on their car since about January in 2016. Yeah. So you never know. They could have been up there in the midfield. And obviously with sort of Mercedes backing with their engines as well, you know, it's a real shame really to see them go after what looked like they were really making, you know, some good strides forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it was a little bit disappointing that Mercedes, you know, they gave them those engines last season. They obviously put Pascal Wehrlein in the car as well. And to me, it was a really, really good opportunity to sort of make that their equivalent to Toro Rosso for Red Bull. You know, putting their young drivers through there, because you know Mercedes are a massive team. You know, they're a massive car company, and they've proved in the last 3 years that they're a massive F1 team. You know, a team doesn't just win three world championships on the bounce by being being fluky. You know, they've got massive backing. There's obviously the money there to be able to put it into another team. So yeah, for me it was a really, really good opportunity to develop those young drivers, as I said. And as you mentioned, Matt, like there's only 20 cars now on a grid which could easily accommodate 24 or 26.
It is awful.
Yeah,
it's. I think isn't it the lowest we've had since?
Well,
only since 2015. Actually, only since 2015. I thought I was going to say 2009, but no. F1, we need more cars. We need more,
definitely.
Teams battling out, even if they are at the back every race. We need that sort of spirit. We need those sort of minnows in the sport.
100%. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at over history, you had like Minardi back in the day. They developed drivers like Fernando Alonso, Mark Webber. These drivers have got to come through somewhere. And when you've got 20 seats, and arguably, in the last few years, you've had drivers almost hogging seats, like Massa and Button. Really, for a few years now, they've been past their prime. I think, obviously,
exactly, yeah.
Like seeing Massa come back again. I think end of 2015, he showed that he was a good driver, which you could arguably say that got him the seat for 2016. But I thought, it was a suitable time for him to wave farewell. And it was disappointing to hear that, not that he was coming back, but that Martini sort of like demanded that Williams had a driver over 25. If that is the case. But yeah.
I mean, I'm sure. I heard that rumor too. Martini. I think with the whole Martini deal, you need a driver that's over 25, and I think the two drivers that were rumored, Pascal Wehrlein and Felipe Nasr, both under 25 at the moment. So they had to really get in Felipe Massa. I can sort of understand it. At the time, I was very, very disappointed. I just thought, what an uninspiring move. Going with Felipe Massa, who's clearly a washed-up F1 driver. Sorry to any Massa fans out there, but he is absolutely past his best. This hasn't been the same since that accident in 2009. He showed some signs, but realistically, he's not going to progress anymore. He's filled up all his potential. It's only really declining from here. But no, it'll be interesting to see how also Lance Stroll gets on alongside him. If Lance Stroll beats him, that'll really, show Williams that they've made the wrong decision. But I can kind of see why they've done it, though. They know Felipe Massa. They know how well he works with the team. They know he can give good feedback. And I mean, I'll still say he's a solid driver, even though he's not the greatest. He can still do a job out there for Williams, and I think it just gives them more time to find a replacement for 2018, who, I'm going to throw out there now. It could even possibly be Valtteri Bottas going back there.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I mean, you because you mentioned
we'll get onto it in a second.
Yeah, you mentioned to me just before we started recording that apparently Mercedes may only have Bottas on a 1-year deal. I mean, it could be like a rolling deal, depending on like how many points he scores or something. But yeah, on a 1-year deal, it's a bit of a strange move when you've got such a big team like that. Mercedes, giving out. They gave out, I believe, a 2-year extension to Rosberg midway through last season, if I'm correct. But yeah, it's a bit strange. So maybe they're just sort of taking this year. So if Bottas maybe doesn't perform to the level which they're expecting, then they could bring in like a really high caliber driver. But yeah, quickly on the whole Massa Williams thing, I think the one good thing is I think Lance Stroll, if he is believed to be this really, really good driver that a lot of people
I think he will.
That a lot of people think he is. I think Massa will definitely help him. Having that experience by him could possibly be what sort of influenced the choice from
because they can't really have two inexperienced drivers because neither of them are going to really develop that way. They need that spearhead in the team to sort of almost help the others, help the younger driver in the team almost. So 100%. Lance Stroll should definitely benefit from that.
Yeah. So yeah, we've sort of covered that bit. I guess Manor sort of diverted off to Williams, but the other discussion point is, I guess, what we briefly touched on there, which is on Valtteri Bottas and Pascal Wehrlein. So obviously Mercedes went for Bottas. They could have gone for Wehrlein. They could have even completely blown the bank and everyone's minds by going for someone like Fernando Alonso. But yeah, I just want to know your thoughts, Matt, on them going for Bottas rather than going down maybe the younger route or even the more experienced route. They've sort of gone a little bit down the middle on that.
At first, I was disappointed because I certainly thought that Pascal Wehrlein had proven pretty much throughout the season with Manor that he was maybe ready for a Mercedes drive, but obviously they don't want to rush him almost into that seat and then find out that he's not ready, and then perhaps because he it's not performing up to their standards, they might have to demote him and almost ruin his career.
Yeah.
I think it's almost they're just almost just taking their time with Pascal Wehrlein. They don't want to like rush him into anything. I think that's almost the thinking behind it, because it was almost pretty much between Wehrlein and Bottas the whole time. There was no real, sort of outsider. There was Fernando Alonso was sort of spoken about, but I think realistically he was always going to stay at McLaren.
Yeah, I think that was more of just sort of people hoping or thinking that it would have just been such like a dynamite partnership. I think rather than Mercedes, that directly coming from Mercedes, that was more, I think, probably just of a media story. But yeah, I can pretty much agree with you, especially on Wehrlein. He is still, last season he was still a rookie. He's only been in the sport one season, and traditionally, you look at drivers who have maybe had one good season. Even take recently, Daniel Kvyat had a decent 2014 season. Was put into the Red Bull in 2015. Again, had a reasonably good season there, and then all of a sudden has a few bad results, and that's it. He gets booted from the team. The pressure is massive in those top teams. The Red Bulls, the Ferraris, the Mercedes. If you have a few bad races, then that can really knock a young driver's confidence. And I don't think, especially after the whole Kvyat thing coming reasonably quickly, it was like reasonably recently. I think they just sort of maybe wanted to take that stepping stone towards getting Wehrlein. I do believe he will be in a Mercedes one day, but yeah,
absolutely. But another thing I would say is that, do Mercedes actually prefer Ocon over Wehrlein? Would they go for Esteban Ocon over Pascal Wehrlein for a vacant Mercedes seat if one did appear?
Yeah.
Because it's a bit strange of that.
Is Ocon actually a Mercedes young driver?
Yes, he is.
Right.
He's a Mercedes young driver. He did have links with Renault.
I was going to say, I thought I wasn't sure whether he was still linked with Renault, but if he is, I really don't do my research, do I? But if he is that Mercedes young driver, it's interesting that they actually gave him the Force India seat.
Well, there's been a few rumours about Wehrlein's almost attitude a little bit towards Manor and teams like that. Apparently, he wasn't too too great with like testing and stuff for Force India. He didn't really offer feedback. Right. He didn't seem interested as much. Mm-hmm. And when Ocon did the testing for Force India, apparently he was a lot better. And in terms of building an actual relationship sort of within the team, Ocon would have been a lot better for that. And Wehrlein, in terms of feedback and actually listening to team's instructions, he's not the greatest of that. But to be honest, whenever I hear him in interviews, he seems like a fairly intelligent young driver. Yeah, so I don't really know. He seems there's obviously something going on behind the scenes which prevented him from getting that Force India seat, because to me Wehrlein is slightly better than Ocon, but again Ocon proved in Brazil that he's no pushover. He performed very well in the wet conditions, but to me Wehrlein kind of deserved that Force India seat ahead of him. But just on Bottas again, I think another reason why Mercedes signed him is because he's very similar to Rosberg. I know we sort of touched on this in the last podcast, but Bottas, he's a consistent point scorer. He could probably play as a number 2 driver to Lewis Hamilton. He's no pushover by any means. He's got the speed. He could start off behind Hamilton. He could quite quickly catch up. You never know, because I think in terms of actual ability and sort of raw pace, I think Bottas is kind of on par with Rosberg. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to see how that all pans out. It will take Bottas obviously some time to sort of up his confidence in such a big team as Mercedes. And I think Bottas is a sort of driver who can handle pressure quite well. He's fairly experienced now, so I think that's really why for Mercedes they wanted to get an experienced head in to almost sort of play number 2 to Lewis Hamilton, and just to sort of just be a consistent point scorer, someone who's already proven almost. And Wehrlein, he's had one season in the sport. He did well, but he's still largely unproven and still got that inexperience about him, and maybe attitude problems as well. We don't actually know about that, but that's kind of what's been hinted at by a lot of media sources.
I think pretty much everything you said there is, does have decent reasoning behind it. Just wanting to maybe have that backup to Hamilton, who, at the end of the day, like Hamilton is their big name driver. Rosberg, obviously, he beat Hamilton last season. He's now the world champion, reigning world champion. But outside, in the media especially, like Hamilton is still their big name.
Absolutely.
So if they'd have brought that real blockbuster driver in, then that could sort of maybe detract from the whole appeal of Hamilton. I don't know whether they just sort of want that hierarchy. I don't know, maybe not so much hierarchy, but just sort of like the contrasting driver partnership.
Mercedes are like that. They don't like their drivers to race, so they can't possibly have someone on the same level as Lewis Hamilton, like Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen.
No,
I mean none of those were ever going to happen anyway. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, I could never really see Mercedes doing that sort of thing. I know what you mean. I think that pretty much covers that topic. So Wehrlein, I believe, has been confirmed at Sauber now.
Oh yeah, we didn't even touch on that. Pascal Wehrlein been confirmed at Sauber alongside Marcus Ericsson, replacing Felipe Nasr. Just on Nasr for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. you scored your points at Sauber. By doing that, you killed Manor, which was your only hope of getting in F1 for next season. Yep. That's just a huge own goal. I think that's how someone put it on Twitter. A huge own goal from Nasr. Loses his Sauber seat, and then loses his only hope at Manor in Formula 1. He's probably going to end up being like a third driver, a test driver for another team or something. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of Wehrlein at Sauber, I'm not so sure. Sauber next year are running 2016 Ferrari engines. Obviously, the engines aren't going to make, they're not going to have a huge impact next year. Not as much as they have done the past few years. It's all about aerodynamics and things like that with the new regulations. But Wehrlein moving to Sauber, is it going to help him? I really struggle to think that it will. It depends how quick Sauber are. I just think that Sauber will be the team at the back pretty much every race. I could be wrong. I could be talking a load of rubbish, but Wehrlein moving to Sauber, will it help him out? I mean, obviously any sort of team, any sort of driving experience will help him out, but a team like Sauber who aren't really, they don't really have the pace at the moment, and they probably won't in 2017 either. It's not going to help Wehrlein, sort of, I don't know. It's a really strange move for me, but it was almost the only option. I think it was mainly because that Mercedes knew that Manor were in deep financial trouble, and they kind of just looked at the spare seats, and there was one at Sauber. They decided to put him there, and poor Pascal Wehrlein will probably have to deal with a terrible car all year.
Yeah, I think, saying about Sauber, I think it all sort of depends on maybe how they start the season. I mean, we know in 2015 they had a really, really good start to the season. I believe Nasr got 5th in Australia.
Yeah.
But then obviously they just sort of went down further down the field as the season went on. But yeah, like you say, it's a lot more to do with aerodynamics last season. It could be like 2009 all over again. They might just come up with some
Oh, I hope it is. I would be brilliant. I'm telling you.
If they could come up with some revolutionary chassis design or aerodynamic part, then it could be a totally different story. But if they start the season as second slowest or slowest team, I can just see it maybe just detracting, getting worse from there, because they're not a team who traditionally...
It will lower his confidence as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It will lower his confidence by a mile, and you don't want that with a young driver, but...
No, I feel like that was the only real option for him, though.
It's
such late notice, but yeah, strange that they went for Ocon at Force India over him, which does it does definitely make me think whether they do maybe rate Ocon higher than Wehrlein, but we'll have to see about that in the future.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, I think it was mainly due to those sort of attitude problems at the test that Wehrlein and Ocon participated in for Force India. I think it was back in 2015.
Right, yeah.
I think it was when that all happened.
Okay.
But another thing I want to touch on is Marcus Ericsson. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. Mm-hmm. I think he did enough last year to seal a drive without scoring any points. He put in some very good performances throughout the season, outclassed really his teammate Felipe Nasr throughout the entire season, apart from that one race in Brazil where they actually got their points, Sauber, coincidentally. But no, if Ericsson can actually match or even outpace Pascal Wehrlein during this season, that'll really raise sort of his reputation, almost his stock. Oh, yeah. Because Wehrlein's a highly rated young driver. If Ericsson can really kick on this year and actually beat Pascal Wehrlein and outperform him in a lot of races and qualifying sessions this season, that could really perhaps put a sign of intent out there from Ericsson. Maybe he could, become a very, very decent midfield driver. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think Ericsson really has the potential, but I'm just sort of saying if Wehrlein, and Ericsson starts off really, really well, that could really put, a spanner in the works almost for Marcus Ericsson, a driver who, when you first entered Formula 1, people kind of wrote him off straight away saying that, he's just a pay driver, but you never know. If he beats Wehrlein, that'll get some people talking and some teams sort of sniffing around.
Yeah, I think Ericsson if F1 drivers had colours, Ericsson would definitely be beige. He's quite. He's just such a. I don't want to say boring driver, but he isn't the most.
Yeah, I know what you
drivers,
mean.
But
I know what you mean.
But,
yeah.
I mean, you could even say the same of someone like Valtteri Bottas. He's hardly the
exactly
most flashy driver. He's more of a defensive driver. So if Ericsson had have got that first F1 seat at somewhere like Williams, then it could have been a different story. But yeah, as you say, if he does outperform Wehrlein this season, it could be totally different. So yeah, the next thing that I just want to slightly touch on is the 2017 regulations. It's been well publicised that maybe it's maybe not the best move for F1. Going more towards aerodynamics, I do think is a very good idea, and that is not just because I do it for a degree. But yeah. But like that is what F1 is about. Surely it's about coming up with designs that, revolutionary designs that are then implemented elsewhere. And I don't know, it's just F1's meant to be the cutting edge of technology. In the last few seasons, it's felt as if it's very, very restrictive. But the way they've gone about it, there's been a lot of talk about the dirty air effect being prominent. No. So
it's going to be worse. I mean, I'm just going to touch on it a little bit here. I know nothing about aerodynamics to put it out there. Joe's the expert here. He does a whole uni degree on it. But for me, the more downforce means that cars will be able to follow closely. But with more downforce, more dirty air will be created. So the problem will be the same, if not worse, than 2016.
Yeah.
So it's just I don't know. I'm really not getting my hopes up.
Yeah.
For 2017, I really hope I'm proven wrong throughout the course of the season, that we can see some really good races with a lot of overtaking action, with teams, fairly close, a really, really competitive field. But with these regulations, I'm not confident. And thankfully, we're not going to touch on it too much, but thankfully Bernie Ecclestone's gone and Liberty Media have come in. They've already spoken about perhaps, implementing some new regulation changes in even as early as 2019, I think.
Yeah.
So we could see how that all changes things, because something needs to be done, because I'm not an expert, but it just does not sound good for next season, the actual racing on track.
No, we'll have to see. I think, I'm not going to get too much into the details of the actual aerodynamics.
Yeah, please don't.
But
you're going to confuse us all.
But yeah, I think a few of the things that they've done do look maybe a little bit better. Basically increasing. I hope that increasing the width of the front and rear wings, basically that should hopefully reduce the amount of drag that's produced.
Yeah, that's always a problem. So many tracks with really long straights, you just saw no overtaking at all. In 2016, the Mexico straight. I know the air's really thin because of the high altitude, but still, it's disgraceful.
Yeah,
that needs to be sorted, and hopefully it will be. But again, not confident really.
Also, Liberty Media coming in, you again touched on that. I think Bernie going should hopefully improve the sport. I mean, Bernie has done a lot for the sport, but in recent times, I think he has definitely.
Yeah, he's lost his head. He's lost his head.
The thing that I like Liberty Media saying, or Chase Carey has said that he wants to keep the Western European races. He said, that's where our fans are. Why would you go away from that?
Exactly.
So to be fair, from what I've heard from him so far, he's talking a lot of sense. I think we give him a couple of years to see, what sort of direction he's taking the sport. So I'm quietly confident about the way that the sport's going at the moment, but obviously we'll have to see on that. So yeah, I think that just about caps off the whole regulations thing. Not really too much to talk about because we haven't seen the cars out on track yet. So yeah, that's the real life F1 out of the way. Now we get into the real talk.
Here we go.
So the F1 community, that is the next talking point. So we're now in 2017, and I think in the last year or year and a half, I'm sure you can agree with me, Matt. I think there's been a massive shift in the way that the community's gone since mid 2015. I'd probably say. I just really wanted to ask you, Matt, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think there has been that maybe a little bit of a change in the last 18 months or so?
I think the transformation in the F1 community has been absolutely huge, with a lot of people kind of almost upping the editing standards. I think the game generally it's got very, very uninspiring. I think the vanilla sort of career mode that you sort of suggest, you can only really do that for a certain amount of time, because the interest dies off very quickly and the content does get quite repetitive. And I think just the overall lack of game modes, on the F1 games kind of just limits the amount of videos that can be made. And, we spoke, I mean, obviously this has been talked about so many times, but the whole oversaturation theory, things like that, almost sort of comes into play. But no, a lot of people have been upping their standards, and I think generally the F1 community, I mean, my opinion on the whole situation, it almost changes sort of by week, almost. Every week I sort of, think differently about it. But at the moment, honestly, we've got 2 YouTubers above 100,000 subscribers. Tim at Marduk, the biggest F1 YouTuber, I think now is under 10,000 away
he's just
from
past
200k. So, I mean, the F1 community, I don't know if I wouldn't say it's thriving. I think that's a bit generous, but I think it's doing a lot better, and it has come an awful long way, and the audience is growing. But again, it's that oversaturation theory that we always talk about, and it's only like a few people that are growing. I mean, it's not everyone. I mean, obviously that's just the way the cookie crumbles, really.
Okay, that's quite interesting to hear. I pretty much agree with that. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's, like you say, thriving, but I think that is more just due to the game having very few, like, it just feels very restricted now. I mean, literally, like, we've exhausted, I talked about this in my last video, that we've pretty much exhausted every single challenge there is to do. Although, like, personally, that's probably the thing that I enjoy the most, is doing like weird stuff on the game that it's just like, it is those challenge videos, and everyone, I think a lot of people in the community seem to enjoy that. It really gets people involved, which is really, really good. But yeah, that the whole career mode thing, like, apart from obviously the ultimate career that I do, people enjoy that for what it is. Like the whole idea behind it, the whole story behind it, rather than it actually just me showing you a career mode.
Exactly, that's the exact same with me in the whole Freddie Gray series.
Exactly.
I mean, the thing is with me, I've got that Freddie Gray series, but apart from that, I've got no other videos going up. That's because I just don't know what to do. Obviously, I know there's video ideas on there. There are challenges that I can do, but a lot of them just have been rinsed out. And to be honest, is it really worth, doing a weird challenge just to, just to put a video out? Because a lot of the challenges are a little bit boring, really. I mean, obviously, you got Drive to the Tyres Explode, a very good challenge. Last Man Standing, the one that Joe formed, that's probably the best challenge that's ever been made on this game.
Been ruined.
I know.
All right, I think we should just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that as soon as the day that F1 2015 came out, that series completely died, which was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, like the challenges, there's nothing new to do. Like it was back in the 2014 when I did the Last Man Standing. Like back then, nobody really sort of did challenges on a regular basis. So I guess I sort of took that upon myself to maybe do a few, and then a lot of the bigger guys started to do it on like a more regular basis, and then people just tend to enjoy that. But the nature of it is that the more that you do something, the more it gets exhausted, and it's always going to come to an end. And yeah, now with a game, like I take this quite a lot. I take this sort of viewpoint quite a lot. I compare F1 to FIFA. I know it's a completely different ball game, and I know football is like a hell of a lot bigger than Formula 1, but you look at FIFA 17 this year, like the amount of new game modes that they've added and the amount of new features they've added to Ultimate Team. You've got FUT Champions, which is fantastic. Like, I'm really, really enjoying that. I've actually got a video coming up later this week on that, which should be good. Like the squad builder challenges. For you guys who don't know, FUT Champions is basically like a competitive game mode where you try and qualify for this league. You play 40 games in a weekend, and the more wins you get, basically the better prizes you get. Something I don't think could be obviously implemented into F1 just because it is nowhere near as big. You're never going to be able to do something like that on there. But the whole competitive aspect to it has really like reinvigorated the whole FIFA Ultimate Team series, I feel. I'd love to see something like that in F1. Obviously, I've got my Dream Team series, but yeah, do you think that they could add anything, Matt, that would really sort of, I guess, take the game to the next level in terms of F1?
I think definitely something needs to be added, because at the moment, all that's really going out in terms of career mode is modded career modes, which have driver changes, livery changes. You've got Araba Series My Driver at the moment, which, is the best F1 series out there. But the thing is, if you're not on PC as well for F1, you're pretty much screwed, and you really need to take your opportunity right at the start of release. Because later down the line, you're not going to really have much to do, because, all the modded career modes tend, obviously they're all coming out on PC, and those are the ones that sort of tend to become the most popular. But no, linking to your question, Joe, and what I'd like to see included, I think hopefully with Liberty Media coming in, that could perhaps reduce the restrictions towards Codemasters. I mean, hopefully they will be able to add in, a few game modes. Maybe driver transfers could become a thing, because it's quite it's a fun thing to do. And in career mode, I mean, that would be very interesting if driver transfers do come in as an actual feature within the game. What will happen to modded career modes? I mean, I don't know what the driver transfers would be like, how frequent they would be, but it's just something like that, something to freshen up the career mode as the seasons progress. Because I feel as well with F1 2016 career mode, obviously you have the sort of hospitality, building that you always sort of load into once you want to start up a career mode race. But I still don't really find that particularly immersive, and I think the whole R&D thing as well is a little bit OP, but I do feel that there needs to be slightly more immersion built into F1 career mode just in general. In future games, you need sort of more be able to look at, more people to be able to interact with, because at the moment I still feel it's quite limited. You're literally sitting on a table in the hospitality unit, and that's it. You don't really get to see anywhere else, really. I was expecting a bit more. I think definitely when Arava made his video about F1 career mode news, and after he did all the beta testing, he hyped it up quite a lot, understandably, but I think it was a little bit overhyped, in all honesty. I was expecting a little bit more, and I hope for future games they can up that level of immersion, because if the immersion's there, then I'm going to absolutely love F1. That's all I'm really looking for in a career mode, just immersion. Because I've obviously done the Freddie Gray series, which I wanted F1 careers to be something like that. Obviously, I know it can't be. I know that it's not possible, and it'll go way off track. But if you could, build your own driver and, interact with more people, travel around, the paddock, things like that. I know Codemasters are quite limited in what they can do in terms of funding, but if they can implement something similar to that, close to that, they can maximise their resources and make something like that, just to make the game, more fun to play, more refreshing. It gets better as the seasons progress, and it doesn't get stale. I know it's impossible to do that, or it is possible, but it's very tricky to pull off. And I think if Codemasters can implement some sort of game mode, even if it's in career mode, that can up the enjoyment of the game, up the immersion, then I think they're onto a winner, Codemasters. But right now, I think as well as career mode, there needs to be slightly more other game modes. I just don't know, really. I mean, the F1 Ultimate Team idea is good, but I still don't think that will be implemented due to, copyright with EA and stuff. But I went on for way too long there. But basically, just to sum up, I want more immersion into career mode, and that's all I'm really after, because I still feel it's really lacking at the moment.
The whole F1 Ultimate Team idea, obviously, I enjoy that sort of thing, which is why I've done a series on it. But I think it's interesting, obviously PES has implemented something, Pro Evolution Soccer, implemented something a little bit similar to Ultimate Team. Obviously, it's nowhere near on the level, and I feel like if Codemasters did try and implement something, it may just become a very, very watered down sort of thing, as you say, to do with copyright with EA.
Don't. I mean, just sort of.
If you're going to do
it,
do it right, basically.
Yeah, they need to sort of also be original. Don't try and almost make a game mode to compare it to Ultimate Team, because it's just gonna look. It's not gonna look great. You should make a completely new game mode that hasn't really been done before, and just sort of make that your own. And then therefore, there's no real expectations, and people will just enjoy it right from the get go. Hopefully.
Yeah, I definitely think they need to do something with it online in terms of that new game mode, because that is where every single video game is going. It has been for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, all the biggest video games, you've got League of Legends, you've got Call of Duty, you've got FIFA, all Dota, all those sort of things. They have multi-million pound prizes, and it's all revolving around that online, obviously. It's not to do with career mode or single players. They need to do something with that. You know, they tried to do it on this game with league racing. It hasn't really taken off, I wouldn't say.
I think for one, they've just got to sort out their online. That is honestly,
that's got to be number one priority for me.
I think it has to be, honestly, because there are, I would say, the vast majority of people want to play online. Obviously, a small proportion like me, I'm mainly interested in career mode as I'm an F1 YouTuber, but from an unbiased perspective, a lot of people want to play online. They want to race against, real life people that aren't AI, of course. So, I think that has to be a priority, just to sort all these ongoing issues which seem to prop up every single year. And they just got to sort them out, really. Obviously, a game, it can never be completely free of glitches, but just some of the issues that I've kind of seen sort of almost arise from the game, it's just really silly, and it's those sort of problems which really sort of put people off, F1 online. And I just think, obviously, as you said, with the direction games are heading nowadays, with more money being put into the online, I think that's where Codemasters need to shift more focus towards, because over the last few years, they've really sort of been focusing more on career mode, which for me, as I've said, is a good thing. I like that. Yeah. But for the vast majority, online should be, the priority, and that's what most people prefer. So, Codemasters, if you're watching, which you're probably not, online should be the number one priority. But don't forget about career mode. Yeah. Don't forget. You got to put them on the level playing field. You got to put as much money, as much resources, as much staff, as much sort of level out the online sort of workers, online developers, and the career mode developers as well. I assume they're doing that already, but it doesn't seem like it really.
No, I think it is. We pretty much agree on those sort of things, so pretty easy to deduce from that what you will. I think the final sort of topic I want to touch on is more an individual sort of topic, I guess. I just sort of wanted to, I know we've discussed this slightly before, but I wanted to sort of ask you, Matt, about maybe your motivation for making videos, that sort of topic. Basically, I'm trying to just sort of think of the right question. Maybe, where do you see yourself going in terms of videos, and obviously, like, I can tell that you're not putting out as many videos, so maybe where do you see yourself? Yeah, what sort of direction maybe do you see yourself going in terms of making videos, that sort of thing?
Well, it's been a little bit difficult. I mean, obviously, I'm going to kind of open up here about my inconsistency, because I've kind of briefly explained it on my own channel, but I haven't really told people sort of what's been going on. It's nothing hugely tragic or personal, but basically towards the back end of sort of last year, towards the back end of college last year, I was kind of in a situation where I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself, when it almost kind of, I had to almost prioritise that over sort of making YouTube videos. Oh, yeah. And to be honest, like, whilst I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do, and I was kind of almost stressing out about it, so I didn't really want to make YouTube videos at that time, and it was kind of a lot lower down the priority list. And that kind of caused me to be inconsistent, and it kind of almost lowered my motivation a little bit, where I knew I had to get something sorted out for this year, which I have done now. I am working at the moment, but maybe uni next year, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's really it. It's just basically me trying to sort out my future, really, and that's why I was very inactive for a while. Beginning of this year, actually, or sort of more recently in October, November, that was a little bit different. That was more due to the fact that when F1 2016 came out, I obviously uploaded my career mode, and it wasn't doing that well in terms of views, and I was a little bit disappointed. Perhaps I had my expectations a little bit too high, and I was focusing too much on the numbers, when really I should have just done it for the enjoyment more than anything. I feel that's definitely something that's changed about me now. I am a lot less sort of stuck on the numbers now. I haven't checked my sub count in a long time, to be fair. But no, basically what it was is when F1 2016 came out, I uploaded my career mode, I think a day after release, but at the same time as, X-Matty G, Tim at Marduk, and it didn't really get, the greatest response, and it kind of almost lowered my motivation straight away. I kind of let it get to me a bit too much, let it affect me, more than it should have done. And basically from there, I kind of lost the will to just upload. I kind of thought at that point that F1 2016 career mode, because it wasn't getting the views on my channel, I was almost like, what's the point really? Why should I be uploading this? I've got to do something different immediately. And I was having so many different ideas running through my head, and it just almost got to the point really with F1 2016 where I kind of just got bored of it almost. My motivation was so low because of what had happened, at the start of the game where, things weren't really, I wasn't really getting the rub of the green almost. You can put it that way. And really from there, I just lost motivation. I didn't actually upload from that point. I was a little bit, disappointed in myself. I knew I'd been complacent before that. F1 2016 hadn't worked out right from the off. Decided to take a break, and that actually turned out to be more like a 2-3 month break. But
I can relate to that.
Yeah. I mean, that's about it, really. It was just F1 2016. It didn't really go down too hard. A lot of different ideas, like forfeit challenges, things like that. A lot of wacky ideas, which never really sort of kicked off or never really suited F1 games. And I kind of lost the will to sort of upload from there on in. Yeah. It's not... Obviously, it's nothing too complicated to why I haven't been uploading. It's just low motivation, really. And in terms of the future, I mean, at the moment, obviously, I've got the Freddy Gray series running the 4th season. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to go and do so. Cheeky old plug.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm doing that at the moment. But in terms of other videos on my main channel, I'm really struggling again. It's almost back to this community discussion again. A lot of videos have kind of been almost rinsed.
Yeah.
A lot of videos have been rinsed out, like the challenges and things like that, and just random online videos just aren't really that interesting anymore. And to be honest with you, all I've really got planned is that career mode. That's all I really have time for as well, because I only have 3 days off in a week. And because I spend so long editing videos as well, which I have really tried to sort of up my standards in a way. And that kind of almost helps my motivation by trying to improve, on every video. I don't sort of stop there, think... Because that's what happened to me before. Yeah. That's almost what caused my motivation to drop, because I got complacent and looked at my videos and thought, yeah, this is good enough as it is. I never really tried to look at improving where really I should have done. And now that's something I do on a regular basis. I look at every video, see what I can improve, and sort of implement that improvement into the next video that I make. But no, in terms of the future... It's a really questionable point, because with F1 2017, I've kind of learnt from 2016 that you've got to be right on the ball right from the start. You've got to be uploading so many episodes daily. And the trouble is, I've never been like that. I've never uploaded a video without really putting any editing effort into it. I certainly haven't done anyway since 2015. And I think, you kind of have to almost sacrifice a bit of editing sort of quality, almost a bit of video quality just to get, videos out there, which is absolutely not a problem. It's the way you grow nowadays. People are only really interested in seeing the gameplay, from the, brand new game almost, from F1 2016. And for 2017, I'm going to try my best to upload consistently, and hopefully... I can kind of get somewhere. My channel is slowly getting back on track. The views have kind of been going up recently, which is very positive to see. And I can't thank people enough, really, for sort of just sticking around despite all the inconsistencies over the last few months. And it's really positive to see that people are still loving the content. And so many people, have stuck around. It's amazing to see. But with the future, I'm going to have to see, because... I'm hoping to do more collabs with people, because I think that's really what is popular at the moment. Definitely. But the trouble is, again, what is there to do on F1, which is,
collabable.
Collabing, yeah. And that's why a lot of people have almost moved over to podcasting, because they've kind of seen the F1, the F1 game is very limited in what you can do and what videos you can make. So they decided to take up podcasting instead. The whole MotoCast channel as well, which link will be in the description. A lot of those guys were F1 YouTubers, but now they're kind of moving on to a sort of a new adventure almost. By doing podcasting, and I very much recommend checking them out. They do have a great schedule, and Joe is actually a part of that as well. But for me personally, what I'm hoping is that F1 2017 can go well for me, and I can really grow my channel. I'm not really setting any targets in terms of numbers, but just to keep my motivation up, I'm just going to really just enjoy what I'm doing. Just do it for the enjoyment, not really focusing on numbers too much, and just aiming to improve my videos sort of week on week. And yeah, that's it really, just to try and sort of constantly improve and not sort of settle for, what's the word? Standardization. That's not, mediocrity. That's the word. Not settling for mediocrity, just kind of almost improving, because that's what happened. I just got complacent, and therefore my motivation just really dropped when the numbers went down almost.
Yeah, I think I can pretty much relate. I think our channels are sort of probably in this similar sort of position.
Very similar, because we
with a middle ground, if you know what I mean. We're like the. I don't really know. We're sort of in no man's land in a sort of sense. Like, we're neither here nor there in terms of subscribers. We've both got a reasonable following. And like at this stage of the game, you're at the middle stage of the game. It is so difficult to try and grow. I mean, you were talking about your numbers sort of slowly creeping up. I mean, I can see the same on mine as well. Obviously, I took a pretty big break just after it was about this time last year. I'm just going to try and have a look on my channel. I believe I uploaded the last video. Please load. That I uploaded was February. This is like 2016, mid-February, I believe it was. Let's have a quick look. 3rd of February, and then I didn't upload till the 10th of June. So that was over a 4-month break. Obviously, I explained why back then. I had exams, illness, that sort of stuff, which is, that sort of stuff, especially, to do with your future, it's got to take priority.
Whereas I think that kind of was the reason for both of us, really, definitely. To be fair.
And then, obviously, when you've got people who are putting out videos like 4 or 5 times a week, or even daily videos, there's no way that you can compete with that. I feel like in those last 18 months, people like Arava and Ben, Tim at Marduk, those sort of people have really sort of gone, right, this it's sort of now or never in terms of getting to that next level. And fair play to them, they have done exactly that. And when you don't keep up with that in terms of quantity, you're just never going to be able to stick around that sort of mark. And now you've got other people who are growing at a good rate. And to be fair, like that, fair play to them. If you have got the commitment to upload 4 or 5 times a week or daily, you deserve to be bigger than the likes of us who upload like once a week. That's just the way that YouTube works. You can't really argue with that. That's pretty much it, I think.
No, yeah, I mean, like I said, Arava is an absolute machine. He's got a 100%. Full university degree. He does, I think, the same course as you. It might be a bit different.
No, he does. He does
the same uni course, and unbelievably, he still uploads, a good few videos a week with his F1 My Driver series, the best series I've ever seen being made by an F1 YouTuber.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible, really. He constantly keeps up the quality of his videos. The quality, almost with university as a distraction, it almost doesn't affect the quality of his videos. It's really, really good the way he does it. And Team at Marduk is just a good all-rounder, solid as ever. Mm-hmm. And, as I said, these guys are the ones, these are the guys are the ones to look up to for any small YouTubers. You've just got to keep a consistent level. You've got to keep the quality up, and you've just got to have the commitment and actually just enjoy yourself more than anything. Because if you don't enjoy yourself, you're never going to make a good video. Your videos will come out as good if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, like, at the moment for me, I'm just sort of, like, obviously I've got these 2, I've had the last week sort of at home, not having anything to do at uni or anything. I've got another week sort of like that. I'm just sort of taking this time to maybe, I guess, reevaluate where the direction of the channel in a sense. I mean, I know I'm never going to be able to upload 4 or 5 times a week. So I'm just sort of personally trying to enjoy what I'm recording. I'm like, you know what, I fancy recording this today, I'll do this. That sort of thing. So
I think definitely over the last year or so, it has been a huge learning curve for myself in terms of the way that YouTube kind of almost works. I mean, you've got to keep that, because I never really thought the consistency was ever that important, but obviously it is. It's absolutely huge, and if you want to grow your channel, you've got to upload at least a few times a week and sort of keep the audience and the fan base there, because otherwise people will just forget about you. If they're subscribed to a load of channels, when your video pops up, they're almost just sort of forget about you. They'll be like, oh, he's back in my sub box, something like that. But no, again, a huge learning curve for me. I've sort of definitely learned more about the way YouTube works and more about the F1 community and how sort of people are growing and stuff, and sort of the techniques almost.
100%. But
the key is, guys, more than anything, you can have good quality. You can upload consistently, but the absolute key, like every F1, well, like every YouTuber says, and it's just to enjoy yourself. That's really what it is all about.
That comes
again.
Across
Numbers
in
are really
as well.
Numbers are really just a bonus. I mean, obviously you can have targets and goals, and it's good to have those because it keeps your motivation up. It keeps you sort of striding towards something. You have like an end goal almost. But no, numbers should always be a bonus in my opinion. But obviously keep on striding towards them, because obviously it does keep your motivation up. But obviously the key is just enjoy yourself. Just enjoy what you're making. Don't care about what anybody else thinks, what anybody else says, what other people are doing in the community. Just sort of do what you wanted to do almost. Like, even your own subscribers, if your own subscribers don't like what you're making, but you do, you've just got to carry it on, really. You've got to enjoy what you're making. Otherwise, then you're just going to lose motivation yourself if you do something you really don't want to do.
Yeah, and the whole enjoyment thing, that is literally, obviously if you're not doing it for a job, that is the be all and end all. Enjoy what you're doing, or else, especially if it's a hobby, you wouldn't do a hobby that you don't enjoy. So why do it on YouTube?
Exactly.
Yeah, you've got to enjoy yourself. Like, for me, I've said this year I'm going to try and time myself to one video a week. And I think it's sort of good to have that motivation in the background, because you can. I found last year, 2016, that like a week could go by, I'm like, nah, I can't be bothered to do it. Can't be bothered to record. Can't be bothered to edit one. And then another week goes by, you think, I didn't do one last week. I can't be bothered to do one this week either. And it just sort of goes on like that. Whereas, I think it is good to have those goals in the background, always sort of motivating you and pushing you on. Like I said, that is pretty much it. That's pretty much it from my point.
I think we covered everything. That's been a really, really good talk.
Yeah,
I mean, if anyone has any thoughts on anything we've said, obviously leave it down in the comment section below, because hearing your guys' thoughts it's amazing. Just hear your whole thoughts on the real life F1, just the F1 community in general. What direction do you think it's heading in? And maybe some thoughts on what we've just discussed about our reasons for sort of like not being as consistent, and things about motivation, enjoyment, consistency, things like that.
Yeah, big up everyone who's been commenting recently. The comments have been probably the highest that they've been for about a year or so, probably even longer than that. I don't know, just like the type of videos that I've been doing, I think that sort of translates to a good amount of comments. I've tried to put a discussion point at the start of every video. If you guys could do the same on this video, let us know down below on what you think, and maybe some ideas for some future podcasting topics. And yeah, make sure to check out Matt's channel. I will leave a link in the description. His latest career mode, the Freddie Gray career mode, is fantastic. Really, really good editing, and he's got a fantastic race engineer as well. Got to know who that guy is.
You will see if you check it out, guys. You'll see if you check it out.
So yeah, I'll leave a link to that down below. But thanks for coming on, Matt. It's been really, really good to go over these talking points.
It's really refreshing to sort of, because I haven't seen very many people do this, especially in this community, sort of open up about their time sort of on YouTube. It's just really refreshing to sort of almost see this honesty sort of almost come out almost, because you don't see it very often, so it's very refreshing to see.
So yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. I've got to think of a nice clickbait title for this video now before it goes up. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next podcast, which will probably be some way through testing, I think, where we'll be talking about that. But yeah, make sure to check out MotoCast as well. Links will be down in the description to that. I'll catch you guys next time for another video. But until then, take care. Bye-bye.